And we are back with a vengeance for more space weather. Looking at the sun on 193 angstroms as we get buffeted with a solar wind stream with a very high density, over 90 protons per cubic centimeter right now, folks. It's from that coronal hole you see rotating out north of the equator there. And there are the timestamps in this view. We see another coronal hole rotating in there in the south. Very low solar activity. Let's look at the 304 angstroms view. And there's the view in 304 angstroms. No sunspots, coronal holes dominating the disk. And the coronal hole wind stream, again, is arriving right now. Here's the Enlil spiral showing the prediction. And this coronal hole wind stream is hitting very solidly right now. It appears to have been directed a bit to the north, which is where the Earth currently is. So, expecting a pretty significant geomagnetic storm here, probably get up to a KP of 5 perhaps, maybe 6. Surprisingly high density on the solar wind coming in. X-ray flux is flatlined. And here's the solar wind data. So we see a phi angle of 320 degrees there. And when I was doing show prep, solar wind density was at 90. Now it's dropped back down to about 25 or so, as we see a sputtering density coming in. No uptick in the speed yet, so it looks exactly like the leading edge of a coronal hole wind stream. No surprises here. The ACE data backs up the Discover. And here's the Magnetosphere movies. We'll look at all three today, starting with velocity, and that's 4 hours of data. Let me shrink it down one size. There we go. Anyway, there's the velocity data courtesy University of Michigan. Here's the density, and you're going to see the density get pinned back here. You're going to see the white be pushed down, and higher density depicted here in dark blue. And it's refreshed on us. Let's let it play through. You see there is a bit of an angle to the incoming plasma stream. No real surprise there. That is, it looks like it's coming in from the south a little bit. And here's the pressure. Put that at the beginning here so you can see the pressure kick up as a result of that increased protonic density, folks. There's the first little sputter. Here comes a very high density section, coming in around 730 UT, and then waning a little bit. Let's look at the geospace ground magnetic perturbations. And we do see a minor global pulse there right at the same time as we see that density spike. Nothing too extreme, although we do see an area where there's like a magnetic pulse coming out of the Indian Ocean. I'll rock it back in a minute. Looks like it's a bit after that initial. Yeah, we see continued bursts that look like they're centered on India. You see right there, you can see some perturbations. Let's look at the polar view for once. We don't do this every day. And there's the polar view. We'll let that play through also. 4 more hours of data. Yeah, and we see those pulses not necessarily emanating from the poles. And let's move on. Talk about the 10.7 centimeter radio flux, which came back down from yesterday's 66 solar flux units down to 65 as solar minimum conditions persist. There's the GOES magnetometer data. And we're going to see continued smoothness here for another day or so as the North Pole associated portion of the current sheet has expanded a little bit. Here's the latest Gong 2 data, this 1 hour and 40 minutes old. You're going to see in the last frame, you're going to see that green field, which is the North Pole associated portion of the current sheet, extend out a little farther, possibly an indication of a little bit of activity, probably south of the equator, out there toward stereo A. Let's look at the last frame, and there you can see that expansion of the green portion of the field there. That's the North Pole charged portion of the current sheet. KP has jumped right from 0 to 3, and we're expecting to see this go up to probably 5, possibly even 6 throughout the day today, as we're seeing a surprisingly dense leading edge of that coronal hole wind stream. And we're going to see extended periods of low electron flux as a result. It's already dropping down, and we're going to see a cratering of the GOES electron flux. Relativistic electrons also very low, and after the coronal hole wind stream is complete, we're expecting to see these levels drop, rise back up to very high levels, both the relativistic electrons and the greater than or equal to the between 2 and 0.8 mega electron volts electron flux as measured by GOES 14 and 15. We don't see any charging hazards, and we don't expect to until long after the coronal hole wind stream is complete. The ionosphere is looking very wobbly right now, and here's the 6 hours of the map. We'll let that play through, and then we'll look at the last frame, as we do most days. And by the way, thanks new viewers. Here's the last frame. I think it's 7:45 UT, and it's looking pretty charged up on the nighttime southern hemisphere portion, and pretty anomalous in the southern hemisphere right now. And let's do the earthquake rundown. By the way, the largest quake in the past 24 appears to be a 6.3 north of Ascension, an island off the west coast of Africa. All right, so first on the list, we're going back to 9 o'clock UT yesterday. We see this 4.7 at New Caledonia, which is underneath my head. All right. Oh, okay, it's off the coast of Australia. All right, there we go, right there. And we see a 4.4 at the Philippines. That one coming in about an hour and a half later. Followed by a 4.6 in Indonesia. We did see a bunch of deep quakes kick off, so we'll get to those in a moment too. 4.5 in Indonesia is next. That one coming in at 11:34 UT. Here's a deep quake at Colombia. Heads up Central America for a larger quake at the surface. My favorite spot for the ending of the 7 magnitude earthquake drought, folks, is still Western South America. We see more deep quakes coming in there. And here's another quake here coming in at 13:12 UT at a 4.1 magnitude at Indonesia. 5.1 quake at Tonga. Here's a 4.6 at Japan. Here's a 5.6 very far south near the South Sandwich Islands. And here's that 6.3 at Ascension, kind of right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean there, as the magnitude 7 earthquake drought continues. Here's a 4.7 at Chile, followed by, about 15 minutes later, a 4.7 at Japan. Next on the list is this deep quake at Fiji. I'm sorry, 4.1 at Chile, followed by a 5.2 at Fiji. That one at 369 kilometers depth. Here's a deep quake at Guatemala. That one at 211 kilometers at a 4.9 magnitude. And just about an hour and a half before we made the show, we see a 4.7 rolling in at Fiji. Another deep quake. Heads up if you've been seeing deep quakes, folks. Although the coronal hole wind stream is going to decrease the risk for a little while until it suddenly ends. We see a lot of anticyclones here in the northern hemisphere as we let the windy.com pressure map play through. U.S. completely dominated by high pressure. And we see a strong, powerful low system there south of the Aleutian Islands. And let's stop this about 24 hours from when we made the video. There's where it'll be at 13. No, I got a little farther ahead than I wanted there. There's 9 o'clock UTC tomorrow. And moving on to more data. Next is the volcano rundown. Klyuchevskoye back on the list, exploding and producing a 20,000-foot ash plume. That's on the Kamchatka Peninsula, by the way. Mount Abiko also erupting. 9,000-foot ash plume there. Mount Aso, possible activity. Dukono exploding, 7,000-foot ash plume there. Sabankaya exploding, 26,000-foot ash plume there. Copahu exploding, 12,000-foot plume there. And Nevados de Chilean producing sporadic puffs, exploding, producing a 12,000-foot consistent ash plume. Please do not fly one of John Denver's ultralights over the Nevados de Chilean caldera, as we need the views. Here's where stuff is in the solar system. There's where things will be in 1 week, a couple days after the new moon, as Mercury and Venus are racing back into the Earth-Sun region. Here's where stuff is above my head. Let's hit refresh. It's 4:02. Do you know where your constellations are? Here's a global lightning map. You see some lightning kicking off in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean there. Looks like it's near the Azores. A stray massive lightning bolt. Anyway, check out lightningmaps.org the next time you hear thunder. It could save your bacon. Or perhaps your beef. What did you have for dinner last night? We had a sirloin roast, and it was freaking amazing. The leftovers are going to be even better when we heat them up in the air fryer. Anyway, here's the weather underground Doppler radar animation. Looks like pretty heavy snow falling there in southeastern Colorado. Shout out, Coloradans. That's you, Anomalous Howard. Please leave a comment if the government is hiding snow from Doppler radar images. Please leave a comment if you understand the difference between a satellite and a ground-based Doppler radar array. And, oh, form resubmission. They got us. And yesterday, Google almost got us, as our video got all screwed up, which is why it came out so late. We do have alternatives for that, and we exercised them yesterday. Now we see pretty high pressure here over most of the U.S. and surprisingly moist air there over the Four Corners region. So we're going to zoom in on that convergence zone here after we let that play through one more time. And look at the rapid evaporation there. If you're in that area, congratulations, you've been cosmic ray fluxed. Look at all the field force lines. You see all these lines that are lining up at 90-degree angles to each other? It looks like a checkerboard in there. Check it out, folks. Radiologic water vapor patterns. If you weren't aware, well, they're not chemtrails and they're not contrails. They are caused by Hall currents. Don't know what Hall currents are? Hall currents are the result of electrical current passing through the planet. So let's break out the diagram here on Wiki. And what we're looking at is electrical current coming from space passing through the planet, which tries to equalize itself on these things called Peterson currents. And out of that process spill these Hall currents coming out at 90-degree angles. That's what causes your weather to form, folks. If you're watching strange parallel clouds in the sky, they're not produced by stratospheric aerosols injected by planes. That's not a thing. We don't have the planes or the capability to significantly do that. So There's your atmospheric physics tidbit of the day. And there are those Hall currents. You can clearly see water moving in one direction and electromagnetic field force lines moving perpendicular to the mode of flow of the water, which is exactly what you would expect. It's electric, folks. It's electric. Believe it or not. Anyway, there's the water vapor scenario around that area, and unless something suddenly changes in space, that's going to stagnate for a while, and the snow is going to continue to fall. And here's the shortwave satellite animation here. I just included this so you can see what the clouds would look like if they were visible at nighttime. And we use this shortwave, the NASA GOES shortwave satellite. Some sudden cloud formation popping off there. And let's move on. Here are the jet streams of the Western world. Let's zoom it in one. There we go. And we see doubled up, tripled up, meridional jet stream flow, etc. Anomalies galore in the jet stream. We look at it every day on this channel. And thanks again, new viewers, subscribers. Thanks, patrons, especially. There are the Eastern jets. And without further ado, let's move on to the That Is Censored, and that is a sinkhole, where we encourage our viewers to understand the difference between their eeet and a hole in the ground. This vulgarity-free section brought to you by smAsho Mash and smAsho staff at massive personal expense. Have you decided to take the time to press like, possibly press subscribe, and maybe press that notification bell so that you see our videos when they come out? Well, please do. Looks like we're back over 1,400 subscribers, as if that's some sort of a milestone. Let's talk about how Google's a scam and not a verb and pays us nothing for these videos. Were you aware? Yes, we know. Google shows you ads at the beginning of these videos. That's because our channel is monetized. And when we say monetized, it's for Google, not for us. So please donate to the cause. You could use PayPal if you like. Links in the description below the video to that. It's paypal.me/smAshomash. Also, there's a Hemp Lucid campaign specifically formulated for our spaced out viewers. Links to that also below the video. If you're in the market for CBDs, buy them via our affiliate link if you wouldn't mind, and help to support the channel that way, as we need lots and lots more funding, about another $3,200 per month, and we will go full time. Thanks, patrons. And if you want to see the real deal and see what's really happening behind the scenes and get information about things like coronal mass ejections and other various space-based stuff and other breaking news before everybody else, hit us up at patreon.com/smAshomash and get the news long before disaster prepared apps and NOAA and everybody else is telling you about the stuff. We'll tell you about it first. Let's go back to space, talking about the local bubble and supernovas that may have caused humans to begin walking upright. We're not going to talk about Antares or Beta Canis Majoris or Betelgeuse or anything like that throughout the video, but we are going to leave links to the article. So check that out, as there's some new information suggesting that an ancient supernova forced humans to walk upright. Now, these things are very far away, and if you don't feel connected to space, well, you should, because things that are very far away can reach out and touch someone. And when I say someone, I mean you. Let's talk about more articles. Actually, there is Antares. We'll leave links to that also if you want to study Antares. Let's talk about the Milky Way galaxy. Milky Way galaxy team for the win. Actually, let's talk about quasars. Were you aware that there's a crisis in cosmology? Well, welcome to the Neo-Renaissance, folks, as astrophysics, cosmology, physics in general, and all kinds of other related sciences are getting rewritten. We've been saying it for a long time, just like we've been saying Google's a scam for a long time. Have you been on the internet lately? Have you noticed that we're so far ahead of the curve that it seems incoherent until often months after our videos come out? Yeah, that's right. Anyway, new data from quasars with catchy names such as HE0435-1223 and PG115 plus 080 and RXJ1131-1231. See all that lensing? Well, they're going to tell you it's from gravity. And we're not going to go there. We're not going to talk about relativity or Einstein or the warping of space-time or any other strange cartoonish ideas in astronomy. But it turns out that, and I'll quote, when a sufficiently massive galaxy closer to Earth gets in the way of light from a very distant quasar, the galaxy can act as a lens. Its gravitational field warps space itself, bending the background quasar's light into multiple images and making it look extra bright. Now, I don't believe in gravitational lensing. I believe the lensing is caused by the plasma, as redshift is not understood entirely yet, especially by mainstream astronomy on the cosmological scale. So anyway, another interesting article citing the fact that things like the cosmic microwave background and, well, first of all, the cosmic microwave background is not a real signal. The signal-to-noise ratio of the cosmic microwave background is only 1.5 to 1, which is not sufficient to produce an image. Shout out to Dr. Robitaille for citing that fact. Let's just move on and let everybody know that we've left links to this article below the video also. Let's move on to some movie suggestions. Now, last night we watched a movie from the 1980s called Pumpkinhead. I like demonic movies, so this is a good choice for you here. It's not great, but it is interesting, and it's kind of a Halloween classic as far as I'm concerned. It's got very odd cinematography with all this funky lighting. It's got a lot of practical effects. Pretty good time. I mean, again, not great, but sort of classic. It's got this kid that looks like Oliver from the Brady Bunch. And yeah, so perhaps check that out. I think we watched it on Amazon Prime, and that guy needs to get his hand off that woman's boob. In the days before Harvey Weinstein. Now, we're going to do a review of a couple movies here in a couple days, as well as some potato chips. Yeah, we haven't forgotten about the All Dressed. The All Dressed are getting reviewed. We just haven't opened them yet. Another movie we're going to watch, The Gate from 1987. Another demonic movie. There's a passageway to the most evil place you can imagine. A gate behind which demons wait to take back what was once theirs. And now, someone has opened, dun-dun, the gate. Anyway, it's a pretty cool one. There's another movie that we want to watch, too. It's about a heavy metal record that opens a gateway to hell. Please let us know if you remember the title to that. I've been trying to remember what it's called. And these kids open a gateway to hell in their backyard, making for a interesting evening. And yeah, so check it out. The Gate, another good call. Were you aware that we're on BitChute? Were you aware that yesterday's delayed video probably received more views on BitChute than it did on YouTube? Is that hilarious or what? Anyway, bitchute.com/smAsho is a place to find our videos when they've been throttled, shadow banned, deleted entirely, and if the station gets deleted entirely, you'll still be able to find the videos most likely on BitChute. bitchute.com/smAsho. Check us out there. As well as on Minds. Minds.com/smAsho. We try to put all the material up there. This is the future of social media, folks. You will not be shadow banned or throttled. You'll have all your views. When people search for you, they'll actually be able to find your content. It's just a delight. Shout out to Bill Ottman. Please leave a comment if you're watching the Space Weather videos. And thanks, Smash Team. Don't go anyplace, as we've got a bonus feature. And yes, I am interested in doing voiceovers for cartoon villains. We're going back. We're going back to 171 angstroms again. It's my favorite personal view. You can see that coronal hole is so well defined. north of the equator there, that it's actually visible in this wavelength, which often coronal holes are not. Let's zoom in and look at the North Pole. There's the North Pole, looking pretty holy, as in coronal holy. And here's the South. We are out. We got to get the video out. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please support the channel via Patreon. Join at the $9.99 a month level, as the $1 a month level is expected to evaporate, although maybe not, on Halloween, on or by Halloween. So look for updates there. Patreon.com/smAsho. Thanks again, everybody. Remember, when you're staring at the sun, not to drink. And if you drink, stare at the sun anyway. Just don't drive. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from ye veins.